so many whose first love was hooping, whether locking down or spotting up and shooting, driving down the lane or crossing up and fooling, and never overlooking the hard work or schooling. Look, whether we talking about legends or talking current, don't never take for granted that all of them put the work in. No love on this court, despite the X and O's. Gotta play the game as if everything is old. Play until you tired, but don't let your weakness show. It's a game within a game, unlike what you've seen before.
Yo, what up? This is Curt Flirt.
It's your boy Ty Sullivan.
Schadrac Casimir.
And this is Game Within a Game podcast. And we're going to be talking everything basketball. Again, we got a special guest, Curt Casmir, Stamford, Connecticut, legend. We got Ty Sullivan, New Haven legend. And we got Curt Flirt. Just Curt Flirt.
Curt's a legend too, everybody. He's definitely
stand for legend.
So we're gonna be talking about what we first want to start off with is both of these individuals navigated through the prep school realm. And that's not a common thing for us basketball players. A lot of us go to 4-year high schools, and then we go on to either our next level. But
that's kind of what I did too. I mean, I only postgrad. I did a postgraduate.
But the postgrad is crazy.
I did a postgrad.
Yeah, but that prep school, that extra year is something that we all don't go through. I wanted to go through that as far as like going to Cheshire Academy. I explored that route, but it wasn't necessarily for me. Mm-hmm. But y'all did it. So for those individuals that actually want to go that route, what are the benefits? What are the setbacks? What are the pros and cons? We need to know that for the basketball community who, you know what I mean? These kids need to know all
like
options.
The difference between like postgrad and reclass and
Exactly. So first said, you know what I mean? You're the guest. So what was your experience going prep school, that postgrad route? And why did you do it?
Yeah, for me, everyone's situation is different. I needed to, my grades was okay. I was just barely making it. So, to go Division I, you have to pass something called clearinghouse. Me being undersized and little already, and my grades not being that good, the college coaches, were kind of iffy on me. On top of that, I was playing in the SEAC, so it wasn't really respected. I averaged 28 my senior year. I had 51 game, didn't get no offers. You know what I mean? So that it was the exposure. So me going to that prep school league, I went to South Kent. It was the number 1 prep school league in the time. Donovan Mitchell, Davonte Graham, I played against all of them. Just by me playing against them, I got those offers.
Isaiah Thomas came out there too, right?
Yeah, Trinity averaged 28. I didn't have to do that at South Kent. I was getting offers like that. Sometimes after a 12-point game, you get an offer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just more exposure. It's a more respectable league. But at the same time, it's harder. It's much more demand. The coach is going to it's run like a college program. You have 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So it's different. It's not like, the FCIC practices. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay. What was your experience, Si?
So for me, leaving Hill House, graduating from Hill House, I had a few offers on the table. I had Quinnipiac, I had Central, and I believe I had St. Francis, PA, coming out of high school. But my situation was a little different. Academically, I was fine academically, but I didn't have my SAT scores, so I wasn't a qualifier. So I needed prep school to buy me a year academically to get my scores, to work on my body, and then if something better came along, I was there for it. So I went to the McDuffie School in Massachusetts. It was a smaller school at the time.
Wait, let me cut you off 1 second so we could just, I want everybody listening to understand how clearinghouse works, right? Mm-hmm. So and you could correct me if I'm wrong, clearinghouse works if you have a high GPA, you can kind of slack off on your SAT scores.
Well, the clearinghouse is a place where you have to submit like your transcripts and everything you've done through your 4 years of high school. They got to make sure you have your all your core courses, your 16 core courses, which is like 4 Englishes, your social studies courses, your math. You have to take all those courses a certain amount of times. It counts 16 cores for you. And when they add it all up, divide it, that's how they come up with your GPA. Your GPA is based off your core courses. So they're not counting music and art and all that. They're counting your most important courses. And if your GPA doesn't add up to a 2.5 or higher, you won't be eligible for a Division I scholarship. So you have to get an 820 and a 2.5. That's the minimum.
But if
you put yourself in a harder position. If you have like a if you get
got
all
a high
C's,
GPA.
'cause I had the same situation. Mine was an SAT situation. But if I would have had like a 3.0, my SAT
You get a little
score
lower on
would
your
be
it could be
fine.
lower.
Yeah.
So
it's a sliding scale.
Yeah, so the sliding scale is if you have a 3.5, you could get a lower SAT score and
Exactly.
still
And you
qualify
still, yeah.
because it's about balance. We talked about balance before, right? But if you have a high SAT score, you can have a lower GPA.
Yep.
So it has to. And let's give an example. So if I have a 3.5 and I have a 750, I might qualify.
Yeah, it depends. It's like they have it written down. I don't
Right.
remember
So
exactly.
if I have an 1100 SAT score and I have a 2.0,
Yeah.
I might qualify. So it has to. It's that balance.
Just
so
get all A's so you won't have to. That's
Fact.
basically what my family was telling me.
Yeah. Just get all A's and you can
Then it
slack
won't
off.
matter. You're gonna pass it anyway.
Yeah.
So.
So I just wanted to put that in perspective when we're talking about this, so the viewer or the listener knows what we're talking about. Because not a lot of people know, and that's the fucked up part about this situation. A lot of students coming into their freshman year don't know this math, how this situation works to get to that next level. But go ahead, Ty. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so just to, give you an example, like, so you said if you had what was your GPA?
Let's say I had a 3.5.
If you had a 3.5 GPA, you could score 400 on the SAT. That's how much your GPA is important. And for most students, like, that come from where we come from, we probably get serious about school. I know at least back in my day, we got serious about school when it was time to graduate.
Yeah,
So I coasted. I wasn't a disrespectful student, but I did enough to get by. So I was an average student. I thought I was qualified. I thought I had a 2.5. We found out that they weren't counting my Spanish courses. They were basic Spanish courses in high school. And this is why it's important for counselors to be familiar with how the NCAA works and everything in the clearinghouse, because they'll just give you any class, So I had basic Spanish 3 years. None of them counted. So it took me from almost a 2.7 down to a 2.45. So I had to get an 820 on my SAT scores. I was around 7 something. Couldn't get it. Had to go to prep school. So that's why I would have went to Quinnipiac because it was in the hometown and they showed me major love. One thing I do know about the recruiting process, you want to go where you love and where, they're going to let you play however you played at your respective high school. And but I went to the prep school, played against a bunch of dudes in the NEPSAC, and it was just opportunity after opportunity that came my way. And I started to chase the jersey. So the Atlantic 10 came, University of Rhode Island, and I hopped on that. But the difference was I went there to be a role player instead of the player that Quinnipiac wanted me to be, or the player that I was in high school. So, that's kind of how that journey began. But the prep school experience was second to none. You're playing against other men. That was the difference back then. When I left high school, that's why I liked the post-grad approach rather than the reclass. Post-grad, back in my day, when we went there, we were playing against men. Like, these dudes were 1 year out, 2 year out of high school, 20-year-old men, 19-year-old men. And it was about, they had the bodies, they had the experience, and you're going to get up against some of the top talent. Reclassing now, it's like some of the schools that these kids are reclassing to aren't top-notch schools. They're like Class B schools, Class C schools. And then you're reclassing and you're playing against babies. So you're not really going, you're getting another year, but you're playing against teams that high schools can beat.
The coaches still ain't coming to see you.
Yeah, nobody coming.
The reason I went post-grad is to be seen.
Yeah.
To play against those people. So if you go to a prep school, that's considered a prep school, but isn't, playing against you're not on that stage, and it's like you're backwards.
Yeah,
That's the goal of prep school is to be seen and play against those people.
Yeah, it's exposure, getting that exposure. Yeah.
So, I had a friend of mine who actually, took his 5th year and actually went to another public school, within the city. And I didn't understand it at the time. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think it necessarily worked out for him. But what do you say to those individuals who's, I just need another year?
Just don't cheat yourself. Be honest with yourself. You know, you could lie on Instagram and on Facebook, but if you just going to a prep school and you know it's not going to get you nothing, just don't lie to yourself. That's all I can really say at the end of the day. You got to be going on a top stage. So if that's not where you're going, there's no point. Now, if you have offers already, you know where you're going to go. Why not do you like, Tremont did his last year at a school right near his house. He went to South Kent, got his deal, the coach left. That's different. But if you don't have an offer, you don't need to be home. You're not missing nothing.
But then again, South Kent is a top-notch school, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went from West Haven, right? West Haven, Notre Dame.
But that's because coach. That's only because the coach left.
He started out at Green Farms, another private school. Then he went to South Kent. That's in the NEPSAT. So Tremont never did his schooling. He left New Haven in middle school. Middle school. Went to Green Farms. Green Farms is like a day school. It's like Hampden Hall. So you can be in 5th, 6th grade and play varsity basketball. So he was able to get some experience playing at Green Farms.
That's a good move.
Against some high school players, Now the prep school talent outside of so they got local, regional, and then they got their national teams. So the regional team or the high school team, the local team, it's like, the little Asian kids that travel from across the country. So the talent's not all that. The national team is the guys that they bring in. So Tremont got to play at some high school level, against some high school level talent at Green Farm. Left, went to South Kent, tore the knapsack up. Schools were on him already. He was killing the AAU. He played for a bunch of AAU teams, did his thing. He already had the schools on him. So
he was ready from fresh. He was a freshman. I was there. He was ready already. So
it was about him just coming back. He wanted to play in his hometown at that point.
That's different.
And reap the benefits of getting all the awards. See, a lot of people don't understand that. They'll go to these prep schools. Tremont was able to get Mr. Basketball. He was able to get all this stuff, make the JCC game, do it like he was really, the number one player in Connecticut. And he took advantage of the small market here. And that's why I tell kids, don't leave. This is one of the easiest states to get on to. If you could be one of the top players in this state, it's way easier than being a top player here than it is in New York. It's such a bigger place. So Tremont, I think he took advantage of it. His loved ones got to see him. But him and Mustafa, they came back into the public schools, into the CIAC and secured their they already had their scholarship, but they came back to get that love. Because in prep school, you're not playing against anybody. It's coaches, but there ain't no fans there. So
just to clarify, we're talking about Tremont Waters, rookie of the year in the D League. Is he like the Celtics subsidiary of? Is that what it is?
It's the what is it? They're like their minor league team, the Red Claw, Maine Red Claw.
Yeah, so it's the
for the Celtics.
The Celtics.
So he has a 2-way contract with the Boston Celtics and the
Red Claw. That's another thing. It's just like when we're talking about and we talked about this earlier, when we're talking about Connecticut basketball, yes, it's a lot easier for great talent to get seen in Connecticut, but that's kind of due to people not knowing exactly what we talked about before, about grades, about eligibility, about all those things, because we have a lot of great talent. I can speak for myself in Stamford, right? And me living. See what I'm talking about?
I'm not.
You see what I'm talking about?
I'm not laughing at Stanford, man.
I used to go through it when I played.
You see what I'm talking about, Sam?
When I used to come in to New Haven, Bridgeport, they used to laugh at me.
I'm telling you, he kind of put Stanford, like, he made it respectable.
I went through it.
Your era, man.
I went through it.
You know about first of all, you
it.
know about John Winchester. You know about that's our era. Stop hating
That's
on the
debatable.
Okay,
John is from Stamford. I told you we got to get John up here.
I went
we
through hell
definitely
with
do.
these
That's the homie. I'm definitely gonna get him up here.
We got to
But
get John up here.
the thing about it is, that's the thing about Connecticut basketball, right? We have a lot of people from Stamford. We got a lot of people from New Haven. I've been living in New Haven for 10 years, right? I know a lot of dudes that never stepped on the floor for a high school team or played organized sports that are really, really good. And I think that can actually get noticed on the national level, but they never had the opportunity to do it because they don't necessarily either have the guidance or they don't know about what we just talked about, clearinghouse, what it takes to be seen, what AAU team to go to, etc.
That's a culture thing, though. Like in New York, I don't think there's so many people that slip off. There's going to be a coach that's going to like, nah, come in this gym. And I think we got to do something about the culture of basketball, especially like around Fairfield County. Because even in New Haven, around this area, I don't see, man. You know what I mean? If you see somebody tall, I feel like a coach is going to snatch him. Like, yo, what you doing? Don't waste your talent. I think it's more of an environment and a culture thing.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. It was just like,
kids are into, they want to have one foot out in the streets and one, like, you know what I mean? They're trying to be cool and play basketball at the same time.
Yeah, I was a knucklehead.
That a lot growing up, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I was a knucklehead, and it was just like, yo, you got to do something. Like, you can't keep getting suspended, bro.
I think back then, like, coaches gave you more, like, you had more opportunity. Like, they want to work with knuckleheads, like, and try to, help
Exactly.
them. Today, it's like, it's so spoiled when you get good kids. Like, most of the kids are good. Like, right now, there's no more street dudes that play basketball. At least I know in my area, there's not. Like, these kids are just really good kids. They come from good homes. They just play basketball. So it's like, once you have kids like that for like 5 or 6 years, you become spoiled. So a lot of coaches don't even want to deal with the kid that may need a little guy.
They don't want to deal with Iverson. There'll be nothing.
Like it's like even college coaches, they're not even recruiting them type of kids anymore. It's like they want goody two shoes.
Exactly.
And that's why we talked about before, like the game has gotten softer because the kids aren't really coming from a tough environment. They're skilled because, they get the early training. They're exposed to a lot more as basketball players, but the heart factor just isn't there with a lot of the kids today, so.
Okay. Okay.
But,
so,
yeah.
I know both of y'all have extensive experience as far as just being a player in so many different levels, elite high school level, elite prep school level, elite AAU level, right? And then you go on into coaching in an elite level, training in an elite level. What's needed to change the culture in Connecticut basketball?
I'll let Seth start it off.
I can't say I got the answer to what was needed. I don't got the answers or anything. I just know what works for me, my household, how I train my nephews. I just think, accountability, just being real with yourself. If you wake up every day, 7 a.m., and do something every day for 2 months straight, you're going to get better. If you half-ass it and you go on Instagram and BS it, you're not going to get better. It's literally as simple as that to me. I think people make things a little complicated than what it is. I think if you're really putting in work, it's supposed to show. Like, don't tweet about it, just be about it.
Yeah, and
I think everybody's kind of playing is more for the lifestyle, more for the, and not everyone's honest with themselves. Just be real.
And that's another thing. It's just like, I don't think other people, it's a mentality. Yeah. Like, it's crazy watching you blossom because I've watched you grow. You understand what I'm saying? I remember I used to come to the crib to go see Cash and Job, and you out in the backyard dribbling by yourself. You know what I mean? What up? You know what I mean? Like, dribbling by yourself, and I'm like, yo, he's going dumb hard. And I see that pay off. But that's not necessarily something that's
taught.
It's taught, but it's not necessarily God-given, because I feel as though me knowing your family, right? Me knowing Cash, he was a great motivator in that. Yeah. Job was a great motivator in that. And it's about that community. It's about the village that actually hones that. And if you don't have a village that hones that, because I look at a lot of ball players that had it from our city. You know what I mean? Marcellus was probably one of the greatest basketball players I've ever seen. But I don't know if he had that community. You understand what I'm saying? So those individuals who have that community, I think, are actually going to thrive. And even talking to you, you know what I mean? Me knowing you later on in life, and we talked about it in the past podcast, you had that community.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I think that's what's missing. The environment you're in. Like, today you can just say somebody's the best basketball player in New Haven, but they haven't played against this guy over here. Exactly. Or they could say somebody's the best player in the state. They haven't been to Stanford. They haven't been to Bridgeport. They haven't been to Hartford. City. So back in the day, it was like, yo, for somebody to say that, like, you had to have tangled with that dude. And you had to have come out on top. Like, you can't just label somebody the best. It's too easy. You could watch a 15-second social media clip with a kid making all of his shots. I hate that shit. Like, these kids posted all day online. Like, you're in the layup line. Like, you got the music playing. You hit 2 shots. Nobody's guarding you. And all those videos, I always look at the team they're playing against. I look at the people in the video like, he looks like a bum. He stinks. Like, why are you posting this shit? And there's nobody like fucking looking at it going, you shouldn't do that. There should be an adult in his life going, nah, that's not what it is. And we don't have that. We don't have that environment where you're holding your kids accountable. You're making them play against the top-notch competition. You're training them every day hard. You're coaching them hard. It's just such a, a soft era, man. Like, it irks me watching some of this shit sometimes, man. Like, it's hard. It's hard to watch.
And I just started training, so I didn't even notice it until I started training.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, man. So,
you can't say nothing to nobody. Nobody takes constructive criticism.
And they want to quit.
Yeah.
You challenge me, want to quit. And that's why it's just so easy to move on to another program. Like, back in the day, I couldn't play for, so we had West Rock, Dixwell, Farnham House. Those are the three local middle school teams.
Mm-hmm.
If I quit West Rock, I couldn't even go to Dixwell. First of all, them dudes wouldn't even let me on the team, the players.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coach would look at me like, get the hell out of here. Like, now I could play for his AAU team. I feel like he ain't giving me no burn. I'm going to go to the rival.
Mm-hmm.
They like, come on, let's go. Like, there's nobody
there's nobody respecting.
Yeah, like, nobody holding you accountable. Like, why would you leave that coach?
Yeah.
Like, what's the reason? They just going to take you. And then if you're hard on them, he's just going to leave you and go to the next coach. And now you have basketball whores. That's what I call them. And they jump from program to program. Nobody's holding them accountable. They get to college now where this coach is playing for his
job,
for his family. You ain't getting it done. It's the next man.
They sell you that too.
I mean,
literally tell you.
But I almost think that's respectable.
That's how the real world is in the job.
Yeah, because it's like, if you're not producing, I need somebody that's going to produce because I have a goal to attain, right? And that's with anything. Like hell, even in this podcast, I'm not going to have somebody on the podcast that isn't going to actually contribute to the goal of actually educating, right? So it's life skills. We talk about life skills all the time on this. Like if you're not teaching life skills, then what the fuck are you doing?
That goes back to what we talked about when I just said, like, there's too many people doing it and giving bad advice. Like, I can listen to him because he's walked that journey. Like, he's a small guard. He went to prep school. He knows what it takes to get on as a small guard, get to Division I level.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk to the regular Joe Schmo who's just the coach of an AAU team and he's telling his kid, come play for me, I could get you in college. How? Who have you gotten there? You got to have a resume. If you didn't do it as a player, you have to have trained somebody. You have to have coached somebody for me to even have the conversation with
Nowadays, everyone's a trainer. It's like, I feel like I have an OnlyFans. I go on Instagram, everyone's a trainer.
Everybody.
Like, I didn't just start training yesterday. I've been doing this for 10, 15 years.
And,
you feel what I'm saying? Kurt?
And it's just terrible. I just can't respect it. Like, shout out to the trainers, man, the good ones. But they
know who they are.
Yeah,
man. Everybody knows who's doing it.
Like I always talk about like Troy Bradford, Terrell Myers, Shamar Antrim. Them dudes, when I was young, they would come back to the gym and donate time. Like, really, like, my mid-range came from Troy Bradford. Like, so I always remember that. I always respect it. I always give him his roses and shout him out on any platform I get because he played a major impact in my development.
Huge.
I mean, so.
But I think that goes to either what's poured into you, right? Because I look at people who add to the basketball culture. You got like dudes like and late great Kobe Bryant, right? Mm-hmm. He's so into the culture. I want to pour it into every aspect of the culture. So if you know what I mean, I'm not doing it in the NBA. I'm doing it with girls basketball. If I'm not doing it in girls basketball, I'm going to college basketball because I live that life. This is my life to actually pour back into that community or that culture. And I think that we lose that. I know me, individual growing up in the culture, I'm not putting in as much as I'm supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of us like that. But y'all guys, y'all live this shit. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that's the difference. There's not enough dudes who really live it.
Yeah.
You understand
really
what I'm saying?
though.
Really live it. Like I feel as though
Not the
you wake
perks.
up in the morning, if you're not putting up shots, like yo,
You're not really.
you don't feel good about yourself, right?
That should be the first thing you think of to me.
Yeah.
If you don't, I think you fake. I think you, and I don't even talk to you about ball or be around you. Like,
Yeah.
No, I won't
Shit
even be
offends
around you. I
me.
won't play where you guys play. None of that.
Yeah.
It offends me. Like I take it so like this is my life. Like basketball is everything to me. So when I see kids online doing that bullshit, like it really bothers me. I get mad. I'm a coach, so I tell my kids, don't put Baller's life on your Instagram.
If you're not really,
If
not
you're
really your life.
about it, man,
Yeah.
for real, because this is life for me. Like this is everything for me. If I didn't have basketball, I don't know where I would be. Like I really don't know where I would be in life. And it's opened so many doors for me. So when you come here playing with, with my game, like I take it serious, man. Like, and that's just how I feel about it. And it's just that serious to me.
No, I totally get it. And that's one of my toughest criticism on myself. Is just like, yo, maybe I'm not putting in as much as I possibly can. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons for the creations of this podcast. You know what I mean? And just discussing how I could get back in, you know what I mean, to help the culture, because the culture needs us.
Yeah.
You know? What are the common mistakes that you made as an athlete coming up and on your grind, right? Because I feel as though I know I have some real mistakes that, like, yo, if I would have changed this, it would have changed my trajectory.
Yeah.
Or where I'm at right now. So you're talking to the parent, you're talking to the up and coming athlete that wants to get to that level of being a D1 player or the pro athlete. What are the common mistakes that athletes make, especially like individually? What are the common mistakes that you would kind of like, yo, look out for this shit?
It's a lot. Off the top of my head, I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
All right, so for me, through high school, I was squeaky clean, probably up to senior year. Maybe the first thing that took my focus off was a young lady, chasing girls, So that kept me out of the gym a certain amount of hours. But I was always good enough to still, go in and do my thing and do my job. On the college scene, I think it was partying. Partying really took a lot of my focus out, starting to drink alcohol, starting to party, starting, just not putting that many hours into the gym as I should. It's still enough to get by, but you don't realize while you're doing it how much it affects your body. As you get older, you realize, hey, damn, like, I really was getting lazy. I really wasn't, going as hard as, I could have. But those are the two points in my life where I felt like I was kind of took off my focus and I wasn't going as hard as I could have. It was still enough to get by, but those are areas that a lot of young black males, once they enter like a university, they go through that partying phase, man, because it's an experience like no other.
I agree.
So, and I want to be devil's advocate on that, right? Because I know a lot of players that actually were squeaky clean throughout, high school, college, right? And they kind of regret not taking the opportunity to experience college the way, because the thing about it is, as athletes, you can't experience college the way that your peers experience
You
college.
can have fun. You can have
Right?
fun, but you don't have to
OD.
indulge in alcohol and do different things, like that. All I did was drink, but you can still have fun without drinking. I had teammates that didn't drink, you know what I mean? And you could see the difference.
Or even one cup. You don't gotta have 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yo,
if you know you got practice
you
tomorrow,
can have fun.
go to one club a week. You know what I mean?
You know what
Like,
I'm saying? Go
yeah.
Saturday instead of Friday, Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was always that dude that prided myself on not making the mistakes that other guys from New Haven made. So it was, I didn't OD, but I probably did more, than I should have at the time, and it was enough to take me off my focus. So, yeah.
Okay. So what up?
I kind of agree with that. That's the major thing. Females could definitely, not saying they're a bad thing, but you have to be strong enough to remain focused. Put in 8 hours still. Female can make you, instead of putting 8, you put in 4 now. It's not necessarily because they're a bad person, but you're just losing focus. So I think if you're really trying to go D1, especially if you're undersized, try not to, just try to stay focused. Try not to put all your eggs in one basket. And the little things for me was just stretching, taking care of my body. That's the biggest thing I regret.
Mm-hmm.
I was
I feel that now.
hard-headed.
Yeah.
You can ask Troy, like I used to go in there, not stretch, I wasn't icing after the games, none of that. I'm playing 3, but it wasn't affecting me at the time.
At the time,
it wasn't affecting me at
but
all.
it affects you long because I feel like that now. Like I'm stiff as fuck playing in these rec leagues.
When I got in college, I suffered a back injury, my L4 and L5 disc. That just kind of ruined my whole college career. I had never really recovered. So that was part of, on top of the partying and all that. Then, we doing the off-season weight program. My L4 and L5 disc slipped. So now I'm recovering. I had to sit out a year, come back. It was tough. While you sitting out, you partying more. You're out on the floor, you gaining weight. You lift all the weight you put on from lifting. Yeah. Now you're not doing nothing. It's going all over the place now. Now it's like, then you got to get back to that. So it's a lot.
And you can fall into a little depression. That's another thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't fall. There's ups and downs in college. Like, don't. I'm telling you firsthand. Like, I got hurt
because
I was depressed. And I never thought I even knew what that was. As me being happy, I never even thought I would even get like that. But when basketball was taken from me, the first time in my life, and I never knew, I was like, what the heck do I do with my life? I didn't realize that was all I did.
And that's the crazy thing.
Literally it.
And that's the crazy thing about because I'm looking at even dudes that were that dude in high school or whatever. Once basketball was taken away from them, they really got into a deep depression, a dark space, because you put so much energy in one space. When that's taken away from you, you don't, and that's one thing that's not talked about enough.
That's true. That's for the girl too. You could put. That's why I say be careful, stay focused. You put all your eggs in one basket in high school, it ends.
And what do we do about the mental health? Because we don't talk about this shit, right? We don't talk about this shit enough about the mental health space in athletics. Because when you're a star athlete, hell, if you're not even a star athlete, you're a mediocre athlete with a little bit of success in high school, right? Yeah. And you put so much energy in that, and that's taken away from you. What else do you have?
Like we had a team psychologist come talk to us at URI. Before the season started, they would come and show us some videos and some exercises and all that on how to deal with a little bit of depression. But that was one of the hardest things, because I'm glad he brought that up, like dealing with that college depression, because if you're not the man in college, it really ain't fun, because that's just a job. Getting up 5 o'clock in the morning to practice, then going to class, then after class you got individuals or something, and it's a lot. So if you're doing that and getting a dude that's not getting off the bench, like, it becomes like,
it's a mental battle right there.
This shit? Why am I here? But I'm glad I did go through it, because I went through it early, and I was able to see, all right, it's not everything. I got to start thinking about other shit for me to do. Like, what can I do now? And I was able to say, all right, I'm not going to the NBA. My injuries may not allow me to even do the overseas thing. What's next? The messed up thing about it is the guys that it happens to later in life. Now, you left college. Now you still chasing this pro shit, and then basketball is taken away from you. Those are the guys that really have a hard time transitioning into life after basketball.
My brother always told me, like, use basketball, don't let it use you.
Yeah.
A lot of people let basketball use them. They use it for the club, but then you got no degree, nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Then when it ends, then what? It's nothing. Or you end up, 31, still trying to prove yourself, playing one-on-ones downtown. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. Yeah, and
I feel like when you're 15 to 22, that's when you like, let's go outside. If you're 25 years old trying to call me out now.
And me and Cash talk about that all the time. Like,
dudes
is 32.
He wasn't outside.
Dudes is 32 trying to.
Nobody knows me outside.
Man, I'm out the game, bro. Don't call me out, man. I'm done.
Like, people ask me to come ball. I'll be like, I think I'm good, bro.
Like, that's why I'm on Facebook,
they
man.
wasn't even.
I'm watching these dudes on Facebook talking. I'm like, yo, y'all was my kids, man.
Like, literally.
I'm not
my children.
I'm done. I'm in a whole nother place in life, man. And you had your chance to do that back then. And I'm sorry, basketball, like, I go to LA Fitness and play with some bums right now just to get the cardio. I'm not in it to do what I used to do.
But so, I almost think that's that goes back to the culture, right? Like, yo, if we give these dudes they love for who they were back when they were that dude, I don't think they're more compelled to, like, kind of prove themselves. Like,
I don't think you should play for love or attention. I think we need to normalize getting a degree, normalize being cool. I think we normalize dumb stuff too much, like normalize being in the streets.
Yeah.
Normally, like, tell them, it's lit to go to school, get a degree.
Yeah.
It's not lit to go to year with average 40. And then what is that going to do for you?
But it's definitely about recognition, right? We all want to be respected for what we do. If we're putting in energy in something,
that's true, but it could bring you down. If that's what you look for every day, you on Facebook, and every day, I need recognition.
Yeah.
Sometimes it becomes you.
That's a fact.
So you got to be confident in yourself. I don't need no one to tell me I'm top 5 if I feel like that myself. I don't need no one on Instagram to tell me. I don't care about the list or none of that.
And I
think when I go to the court, it's going to show.
I can respect his mind frame. And I think that just got something to do with him being a little guard. It's the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, like always having to prove something. I mean, there's a guy that's 6'2" who you're better than.
Yeah.
And they talking about this dude. And you putting in the work.
Exactly.
You know you better than this dude. And it's like, man, all right, I got you. You're going to have to come see me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't need nobody to tell me shit. Nobody's never told me shit. I went and took it. Everything I got, I took.
But what you took, you got accolades for. Yeah. Like I'm looking at it myself, right? I don't have the accolades to be like, yo, I'm that nigga at ball, right? I know people that I played against, right? That would be like, yo, they have to vouch for me, right? Gotcha. I can't be like, yo, I got FCAC for all first team, or I got, you know what I mean, defensive team here. I don't have that. Yeah. But the dudes that I played against, they could be like, yo,
Curt was a hell of a rebounder.
They're gonna speak for me, right?
I see what you're
so
saying,
with y'all guys, y'all have the accolades, but for an individual like myself, you know what I mean, I really got to stand on my morals. Like, yo, I feel as though I'm the best basketball player because I've never been, you know what I mean, given an award or whatever. Well, you know what I mean, besides basketball camp and shit, but I've never been recognized as a top tier player. But for y'all, it's a little bit different. So I get what you're saying for an individual like me, right? But an individual like y'all, it's a little bit different because y'all have that recognition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's also levels too. You know, if we put in that work, that's what comes with it. Recognition comes with it. I mean, if you didn't put that work in, you're probably not going to be as recognized. Yeah. I mean, from the general public. Now, I know how important role players were for me. Like some of my best friends, they were in my wedding. Some of my dudes that he was a hell of a screen setter. Yeah. You know, and I always give him, show him that love. Big Reg Austin. And, I think that's our job. The people who got the recognition. I think that's on us to kind of give those roles.
Maybe we should do a top 5 in Stamford, because if they hear who I say, then they would be like, who's that?
Yeah,
I'm gonna name. They're gonna be like, "Who's?" Yeah. Like, yeah, those who you guys look up to them, but this is who's doing it.
But I think that's the point. Is because the community has. If I give the dude flowers, you know what I mean? They don't necessarily have to go out and overextend themselves. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what's needed. You know what I mean? To kind of like alleviate the stress on every aspect of this culture. For not saying necessarily you, but just the culture to be like, because we got like we talked about it before. We got dudes that 2 generations before you that your generation don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
so
tough.
That was tough.
Tough.
And it's just like, why the fuck don't you know me? So they have to overflex. You know what I mean? If they're not secure within themselves. So
I think it's a fine line with both eras, though. I feel like the younger ones don't respect the older ones because they just disrespectful, and I feel like the older ones be hating on the younger ones. So I think there's work on both ends. Like I said, it's self-confidence.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
It's like music.
If you confident though and you self-confident, you don't worry about none of that.
Yeah.
None of that is going to affect you. And that's all it comes down to. At the end of the day, self-esteem. People ain't like confident with how their career is going or how it went.
And when you're confident, you don't need nobody to. I just put up that list for the Stamford, right?
Yeah.
There's dudes that it's just other dudes are gonna speak for you.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying?
I don't even gotta go in there. Like,
I made the list. I made the list, and I'm like, I laughed at myself.
He cheated on his homework, but I respect what he did. Like he's a fucking genius.
I made the list. I was like,
bro,
I laughed at it.
He be
I stopped responding to his shit. You say something like, well, why though? Why?
Well, it's always the why. It's always the why.
He don't ever give his point.
I'm like, nah.
He started
delete your shit too.
Like, hold on, let me stop.
Nah, he's a troublemaker.
It's so crazy that that was going to be on my list, like life after basketball. You already touched on it.
Yeah.
So yo, let me get to a good question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your approach to? And I want to ask you, Seth, because you talked about this in an earlier podcast. Mm-hmm. What's your approach to training basketball youth?
I just look at it like I'm training myself still, because I'm still playing. So
yeah,
I just look at it, just go in there, energy, get them better. Honestly, most of the time at this point, because I'm still in shape, I'm jumping into workouts with them.
Yeah.
So my approach is just to give them energy. I know they believe me because they see me play. So my job is to just go out there with as much energy as possible.
Yeah.
They know what I'm saying is, I'm telling them the truth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them better. So as long as I go out there with 100% positive energy, they're gonna listen. They're gonna get better. So
yeah, and I gotta put it. Just looking at Nas is a fucking monster.
Oh,
bro.
yeah, you getting there.
Getting there. Nas is a monster. I wouldn't tell him that.
He be trying to play me one-on-one, bro.
I think he could bust your ass.
In my chest.
Could he bust your ass?
No.
Nah,
Nobody can do that.
Nas is a monster. I like the way he's turning out. Y'all doing a great job with him.
Lifelong lessons, undefined blessings. Just a couple things that come from coaching and some pressing. At times it's depressing, but you gotta find the effort. It's a game within the game in many ways. Don't make me lecture. All are not deserving and may not like the burden. Time to tie up these curtains. Listen to Tanya Curtis. Yeah.